Hey gang, I thought I'd walk through how I solved this problem. You may have come up with a different solution than I did. That's okay. So let's start up here with the headline. You can see in your HTML that it's H1, H2, H3, right, like that. And I've had a couple questions about how do I get these to look all gray. It's really simple. What I've done here is I've said H1, H2, H3 all have a particular weight. So the first one's bold, the next two are not. They had different sizes, 16, 15, and 14. They had different amounts of spaces between each line, so 12 or 20 pixels between each vertical line, so the spacing. It's set in Helvetica, Arial, Sans Serif. This is just a nice fallback so that if they don't have Helvetica, they'll get Arial, and if they don't have Arial, they'll just get the generic Sans Serif. Margin is set to 0, so that means these elements do not push each other apart. If the problem you're running into is that you can see through them, there's kind of the background color showing through, that's because margin is pushing the elements apart. So setting margin to 0 keeps everything nice and tight. I bumped up padding so that there is visual space between each element. You got to remember, padding is the space around the text, but still inside of the object. Padding, a margin is what pushes objects apart from one another. And then I've set them to this background color, so they all share the same background color. Then let's look at how guacamole is handled right here, right there. It's the same set of fonts, slightly larger. Same deal with margin, where I'm kind of pushing some elements above it down so it has a little bit more breathing room above it, and set into this green color. H5, the word introduction and ingredients and directions are all handled exactly the same, which is right here. Nothing really special there other than I've now added italics to that. And then ingredients, my unordered list of ingredients, I have a strong, but because I'm not really doing anything weird with strong, I don't need to style that at all. And then just everything else is just like this. Paragraphs, list elements, gets treated exactly the same amount of fonts. Padding just bumps things in a little bit so they're not right up against the edge. And remember, our margin does rather, not padding. Remember, margin measures like a clock, where the top one is 0, the right one, like the 3 o'clock on a clock, is 5, the bottom one is 5, and the left one is 5. So it just kind of goes around like that. That's how the order of margin is here. So it goes 0 to the top, 5 to the right, 5 to the bottom, 5 to the left, and then a color. And unordered lists, or ordered lists rather, which is the directions, almost exactly the same, only I've bumped in and modified their margins a little bit so that it just looks nicer. So there you go. That's a little quick walkthrough. Hopefully that's helpful.